Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today, the top 10 countries it's super easy to emigrate to. We've all felt it, that desperate, cloying urge to escape, that semi-primal need to flee our home country and all of its madness and never look back, and instead devote ourselves to relaxing on distant beaches or becoming a kung fu master. It's a tough call. And we've all felt its accompanying feeling, that sad realization that our dreams are but beautiful illusions, and cruel, cruel reality is going to drag us kicking and screaming back into its stifling embrace any minute. Or is it? While moving abroad permanently may not be the easiest thing in the world, it's also not as hard as it first seems. In some countries, gaining residency is so easy that pieces of cake and falling off logs look fiendishly complicated by comparison. Just before we get started, I do want to say here that we're assuming nobody watching this is filthy rich, so we've excluded countries that allow you to buy citizenship for exorbitant funds. But if you're interested, the cheapest of them all is the Seychelles at just $12,500 US. Number 10. Ecuador. A land of boiling volcanoes, soaring mountainous peaks, and old pastel-colored colonial towns, Ecuador is exactly the sort of over-romanticized stereotype of Latin America you've always secretly held in your head. It's got beaches, islands, Mayan ruins, and an adorably underperforming soccer team. It's also got a remarkably low cost of living, and the US dollar is the currency. Sounds pretty great, right? Well, get this. This little slice of south-of-the-border paradise could be your new home for as little as $800 per month. That is not the cost you have to pay, that's the income you have to prove you can move to Ecuador. Technically, this is a requirement for Ecuador's pensioner visa, not a general one. However, Ecuador doesn't set minimum age requirements on pensioner visas, and those claiming them don't need to even prove they have a pension. You just gotta be able to show that $800 will be landing in your bank account every single month for perpetuity, and then you're in. This does kind of beg the question why they call it a pensioner visa, but well, who are we to argue? This low requirement means that people with trust funds, compensation payouts, and royalties probably mean they're going to get a visa very easily. Number 9. Austria. First things first, Austria is not an option for those who like their homes nice and cheap. The former seat of the Habsburg imperial power, Austria is a tiny country that operates a whole lot like a hipster craft store. Small, fascinating to look at, and so expensive that you will have to sell at least 3 organs before you can afford to be there. But Austria does have one thing that a hipster store does not. According to the Telegraph, Austria offers over 10 different types of residence permits. The best part? Absolutely none of them require any form of inward investment. The bad news is that you need to apply for your residency card abroad, i.e. not in Austria. The good news is that this doesn't apply to EU citizens or Americans. If you're an American, you can just get a D visa, giving you up to 6 months leave to stay in the country, then go to Austria, secure a job or wife, and then apply for a proper residence visa. Just remember to smile smugly at all those struggling Canadians or Australians as you waltz your way to the front of the immigration line. Number 8. Belgium. Germany's go-to country to invade after Poland, tiny Belgium is one of Northern Europe's tiniest states. Slightly smaller than Maryland, it boasts a whole lot of flat and a whole lot of roads. On the other hand, it does have some of the most attractive small towns on the continent, not to mention some of the tastiest beer. It's also fairly easy to get long-term residency. All you have to do is get a job. Yes, we know this is probably easier said than done when your personal CV has professional procrastinator listed under most recent role. But here's the thing. Many countries in Europe aren't cool at the moment with letting you take away jobs from locals. In Belgium, not only will they let you apply for work as an outsider, they'll then offer you a residency permit after just 2 weeks of employment. This is not a permanent residency permit, understand, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. All you gotta do next is hold on to your job for long enough, it varies by region, and you'll be laughing all the way to the Belgian citizenship test. The only downside, of course, is that you actually need to be employable for this plan to work. Number 7. Paraguay. Nothing could be simpler than getting residency in Paraguay. Probably thanks to its terminal obscurity, the government seems desperate to get as many people into the landlocked South American nation as possible. As a result, there's only one hard and fast requirement. You need to deposit money in a Paraguayan bank. A small amount won't do, but you don't have to go big. Around 35 times the monthly wage is the accepted sum, which is between $4,500 and $5,500 US. Once you've done that, Paraguay is your oyster. Of course, whether that oyster contains a pearl or just a lump of grit depends heavily on what you're looking for in your new home. Paraguay is so obscure that it has neighbors who've never heard of it. Try telling the average American you're moving to Paraguay and they'll think you've mispronounced Uruguay. Who are we kidding? They'll think you've mispronounced New Jersey. Of the 6 million or so people who live there, at least half of them probably pretend they're from Argentina. It's a poor, undeveloped country surrounded by bigger, way more developed countries, but at least it's cheap. Number 6. Canada. Like the hippie younger sibling of America's hardworking grown-up, Canada always takes a contrary liberal stance to the USA. That includes immigration. While America is currently experimenting with making immigration as unattractive as possible, Canada is casting its arms open wide to the surrounding world. Luckily, that includes you, provided you can prove you're worth having. Canada's immigration rules run the gamut from excessively liberal to utterly draconian, depending entirely on how skilled you are. For those with the skills or education level that Canada needs, there's an express entry program that's so swift it probably amounts to kidnapping. All you do is fill out an online form which gives you points based on education, work, and whether you speak French. Then there's also bonus points, for example if you studied in Canada or have Canadian relatives. All you got to do next is pony up $500 Canadian, which is $390 in American, and you're in. But what if you're an uneducated, unwashed slob? Well, there may still be hope because Canada has one of the highest proportions of foreign-born citizens in the OECD, so why wouldn't they take you to? Number 5. Belize. An English-speaking nation in Central America with a low cost of living and the sort of beaches you'd expect to see David Hasselhoff running down in slow motion? Well, yes, this is an actual place that does exist, and its name is Belize. Wedged awkwardly between Mexico and Guatemala, this pint-sized slice of paradise is barely larger than Wales, and it comes with a population smaller than Bakersfield, California. So what's the trick to setting up shop in this land of palm trees and crystal waters? Well, that's the best part. You can apply for permanent residency in Belize after only a year there. To stay there for a year, all you have to do is arrive on a 30-day tourist visa and keep renewing it every 30 days. When you hit the 50-week mark, pay $1,000, and after jumping through some bureaucratic hoops, you should be in. Just to be careful of the requirement that some departments have that you can leave the country for 2 weeks every 6 months. Doing so will reset your year-long countdown. Number 4. Nicaragua. It might be a shock for those who remember 1980s Nicaragua as a place of leftist coups, civil wars, and right-wing contras, but Nicaragua is gorgeous. We're absolutely serious here. Just check out the pictures we're showing in this section. It kind of looks like someone got hold of leftover bits of paradise that God had lying around and tossed them all together in a big celestial bowl. Provided you can ignore the politics, Nicaragua is the place you have always wanted to go home to. So now we've sold you on the whole idea, we've got some awesome news for you. Nicaragua runs a retirement program just like Ecuador, and just like Ecuador, they take their own entry requirements with a pinch of salt. Provided you can prove an income of just $600 a month, you neither have to be old nor technically retired. While most countries don't let those on retirement visas work, Nicaragua's government defines work so loosely that you kind of wonder why they bother doing it at all. If you open a restaurant or a small hotel, they don't define it as work. If you get an online income from a non-Nicaraguan company, they also don't define it as work, so yes, their definitions are very, very loose. Number 3. Panama. Technically an independent part of Central America, but in reality looking and feeling like a part of Florida that broke off and floated south, Panama is moving abroad for those who don't want the hassle and inconvenience that moving abroad usually entails. It's safe, it's well developed, and lots of people speak English, and it also uses the US dollar. And you know what else? Practically anyone can move there with effectively zero effort. Most Americans that head to Panama do so on the retiree visa, which gives holders massive discounts on a ton of stuff. It also only requires a monthly income of $1,000. But the residency visa for younger workers is almost equally good. Basically, all you gotta do is deposit $5,000 in a Panamanian bank. Then, if you come from one of the 47 friendly countries, and yes, that includes the USA, Canada, UK, New Zealand, Austria, and the EU, you can get the Friendly Nations visa. All you need to do is find a job or open a business in Panama, and you've got long-term residency. Just be aware though that a lot of people who get this visa are using it as a massive tax dodge. Number 2. Mexico. Nothing could be easier than getting permanent leave to remain in Mexico. Seriously, just rock up to the airport or border and ask to buy an FMM visa. Provided you don't intend to do any work, the FMM visa allows you to remain in Mexico for 6 months. At that point, you can renew it for another 6 months. Then you can renew it again, and again and again, and so on until you finally die. So now you might be wondering, well, how much does this visa cost? Well, the princely sum of $21. That's $42 a year to kick back in a city of pristine beaches, world-class cities, gorgeous colonial towns, and mountain scenery like something out of a dream. Sure, you're probably going to need an income to go along with that, but fear not. There are roughly a bazillion Mexican temporary residency visas you can cheaply upgrade to, including some designed for artists, sports players, scientists, and retirees. All of this leaves just one thing to discuss, and that would be drugs. Yes, Mexico is in quite a grim place at the moment, with the drug war having killed tens of thousands in the last decade. Whether you think the risk is worth it is up to you. Not everywhere is affected, and some towns are essentially drug violence free. Just maybe make sure you don't get involved with the drug trade while you're there. Number 1. Svalbard in Norway. Hold on a second, Simon. You're telling us that Norway is the easiest country on earth to move to? The same Norway that requires those who want permanent residency, not even citizenship, to study Norwegian for 250 hours and complete 50 hours of social studies? That same Norway? Well, actually, dear viewer, not really. Not quite. The archipelago of Svalbard, with a population of 2,642, is indeed part of Norway, but in the same way that Puerto Rico is part of the US or Greenland is a part of Denmark. A whole lot of important things have been devolved to the Svalbard administration, from gun control to environmental issues to emergency services and the issuing of marriage certificates. One thing that has been devolved is immigration, and Svalbard works on a very different system to that of Norway. There is no visa regime on Svalbard at all. Literally anyone can move there and settle down without the need for a permit. The only thing you need to prove is that you have sufficient funds to support yourself after moving there. This is important because Svalbard is cold. It's closer to the North Pole than it is to mainland Norway, itself a very cold country, and Svalbard is both freezing and utterly remote. It's over 1,000 miles to the mainland, and winters take place in permanent darkness. Further, hungry polar bears really do prowl the streets. To cut down on polar bear attacks, unemployment and homelessness are literally illegal, and retirees are deported if they're considered a drain on society. But hey, at least it's not your home country, right? So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and do not forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also over there on the right, a couple of other videos you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one. And as always, thank you for watching.